Yay!
Yay! The annotation works.
Ding.
Clear. Hello, 10th graders?
10th graders!
Hey.
Welcome.
10th graders, pretty much we've had kind of a crazy, complicated unit about the Haitian Revolution and a crazy, complicated new standard. And we wanted to land this plane as easily as possible because you guys are already all doing great.
Yeah.
And we want you to feel like you're doing great too.
Exactly. So we're going to do a quick rundown. Basically, once you're in the slides, this video you're watching right now is going to be here. So a little trippy, but we think you can handle it. So we're going to go like, what have we learned so far? Do a quick unit overview. Then talk about how you're going to be scored in this next assessment, and then like what are you actually doing for the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
That's the agenda.
Oh, hold on. Now I got to click there
Yep.
to then click up here.
Smart.
I think. Okay, so unit overview. We had this kind of complicated unit. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to go to modules, but we had this kind of complicated unit about the Haitian Revolution, right? There's a lot happening in there. There's these social divisions. There was some new vocab that was complicated. There was this process grid that we're going to get to in a second, too. And we wanted just to give you kind of a quick overview of it. I'll do this one real quick if you want to talk about the process grid just a hot second.
Sounds good.
So there's these four different groups of people, these four social classes in Haiti before the revolution. If you want to find out more about it, you can come to this assignment here and watch that little video, but then also click through on these slides here that'll talk about it. I'm just going to kind of talk about it real quickly. Obviously, there was the enslaved laborers. They were 90% of the population. It was just a wildly large slave population for this colony. This colony was also one of the richest colonies in the entire French Empire, in all of the New World. They were making sugar and other things that they were exporting back to Europe, and it was just very, very popular. White gold, they called it. So that was the enslaved laborers. The people that were overseeing the enslaved laborers were often these petite blancs, or these little whites. And what that meant is that they were non-property owning. So they had the political rights of being, French citizens, but they didn't really have a lot of wealth to go with it. And that kind of engendered some jealousy and concern, because top right, you've got these free colors. Oh, I'm supposed to be doing this one. Top right, you've got these free colors, and these were people that actually did own land. In some cases, they also owned slaves, even though they were mixed race. And they had a fair amount of wealth, but they didn't have the political rights that goes with it. Coming down here to the last one, these Grand Blancs, or big whites. These are the big plantation owners. Often they lived in France, and they would come to the colony on occasion, or they would have their plantation overseen by overseers. That, I think, does it for me. Did you want to talk about this giant assignment?
Yes. So this one looks like a lot, but it was so like engaging and so much really helpful information in understanding all these different dynamics. So what you hopefully have already done, but if not, we have this teacher version that we're going to post to support your work with this assessment. But we've got these guiding questions and then videos that go with each one. So thinking about like, what was the status quo? What was happening during the time period? What already existed as systemic and disproportional problems? And then how would that lead to unrest? Then we've got just thinking about like the power dynamics. So again, like what are the relationships between these different groups of people? What a catalyst is something that starts something. So what led to further resistance? How did conflict escalate? And then was the revolution successful? And so these videos, they're all super short, but there's a ton of information in them. I know those of you who were in small group with me on Tuesday, I think we watched a couple of the videos like 3 times because there was so much information. It was helpful. So if you're still working on this, watch these videos a couple of times because that will help really lock in the information. I don't think we need to go through all of this, but these notes will be posted to help support you on this assessment. And feel free to make a copy and add your own notes to this as well. So there's that assignment.
Okay, which brings us to this assessment. So we're going to take a look at the standard and the rubric, like how will you be scored, right? This unit overview shows that there was a lot going on with the Haitian Revolution, but when it comes down to what are you being assessed on, and then what does that assessment look like, that's what we're going to talk about next. So here's the rubric. You want to do
Sure.
it?
Absolutely. So the theme of this standard is about how the distribution of power and inequalities can lead to conflict. So this is like, again, like this is what we want you to be like rooted in as you're approaching this assessment. So it starts with just like, noticing what the social inequality is. What are the common patterns? Like, how does it show up? How does it manifest? Then the effects. So, like, how do those patterns of social inequality affect people? What does it cause? Then thinking about that direct relationship. So, how and why the distribution of power results in conflict. And then finally, the significance and the long term effects. So that's sort of the like progress through the standard. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the right word, but
Well, and also just to think this is a brand new standard, and
yeah.
so a lot of people are going to score a 1 or a 2, and that's fine because we'll reassess the same standard later. In order to score a 3, I also put those 3 things right there: the values, interests, and structural things, just because those are good words to be using. Oh, that's kind of cool. When you're doing that analysis, so there was an inequality or a difference in terms of the power that people had based on their interests, things to do with money or opportunities for gain. Or maybe there was an inequality about values, the value that was placed on different colored people, to be entirely honest. Or there was a structural difference that was to do with the institution of slavery, or kind of it's kind of messy, right? There's those 4 different categories. Anyway, this is meant to kind of help guide your work, but also just to kind of give you a sense of like, okay, you know what, I can get there by the end of the quarter. Right now, if I'm at a 1 or a 2, I'm heading in the right direction, and I'm gonna be able to reassess on it some more in the future. Okay, last thing we're doing, we did the first one, unit overview. We did the standard and the review. So let's just take a quick look at what does this standard actually, or what does this assessment actually look like. There are 4 slides. If I click there, is that? Yeah, oh, they didn't go away. That was fancy. This first one is a 1 out of 4 or beginning. And so you're just going to explain the patterns of inequality that we just talked about by dragging and dropping either dollar signs, or that little building is meant to signify political power. So which of these groups had wealth, and which of these had political power? Next up,
Can I give one little hint for this?
yes, please.
It's not necessarily one icon on each group.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
So that's
Good
just
point.
like, as you're doing this, some might have no icons, some might have both. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something to remember.
Good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Next up, approaching. So this is a 2 out of 4 on the rubric, and you're going to choose one of those 4 groups and then answer this question right here. How were people in this group impacted by the different levels of wealth and power? Couple of quick notes. The sentence starters here are great ways to start your response. Feel free to copy and paste and fill in the blank. Also, not very many people take us up on this offer, but if you would just like to talk about this instead of write about it, feel free. Just click there, record your answer. It'll actually just do a screen capture, just kind of like this is, and it's an option that's always available for you. You want to take this next one? It's kind
Sure.
of a lot to look at.
Here we go. Okay. Hopefully, we tried to rearrange this so that it wasn't too much on the page. It's still a lot on the page, but we know you can all handle it. And if you can't, let us know and we'll go through it even slower than we're doing right now. So you got your 4 groups again. You've got the standard. I should circle things. 4 groups, standard. Thinking of these 3 things as well. So you're going to analyze how the distribution of power and inequalities between the different social groups resulted in revolution. So, how did the inequalities, there we go, result in revolution? So, there's a claim and supporting ideas. to help you as you structure your response. Or again, you can speak it out instead if you'd rather. But the idea is you're really thinking about how, like, like again, thinking sort of back to the process grid and the like, what was the status quo and how did this affect how people interacted and then eventually like led to revolution.
Booyah. Okay, last one. This last one is actually optional. So if you're trying to go for a 4 out of 4 on the standard, because you're feeling good, I love talking about power, inequalities and distribution of power. This is like my jam. Feel free to take care of this last slide, but it is optional. A 3 out of 4 on the standard is what is your grade level standard. But if you want to take a chance at this one, what you're doing is answering the question. After the Haitian army's military success led to independence, their country was denied recognition and trade rights from the US, France, England, and others because they were a nation of formerly enslaved people. So use that big picture situation as an example to explain the long term effects of the unequal distribution of power and political and economic power. So, how has this inequality impacted people throughout the ensuing 200 years? Super cool question. Also, kind of challenging. You need some background information, but if you want to give it a try, we'd love to see your work. Then your last thing to do is just give a quick self-assess. Where do you think you got on this rubric? Knowing what you think you were able to do helps us to kind of see like, oh, okay, we think they got a 2 because they were able to do these things, but they think they got a 3. Well, let's talk about the difference, or the opposite happens a lot too. Any
Yeah.
last words of wisdom?
You're all going to crush it.
You're all going to crush it. Have a wonderful rest of your day.